The cafeteria erupted in cruel laughter as the school's golden boy leaned in, his breath hot against the trembling girl's ear. "Bark for us," he sneered, fingers digging into her shoulder. And when the first pathetic whimper escaped her lips, something invisible snapped in the air. What none of them realized, not the bullies, not the bystanders, not even the broken girl herself, was that this single moment of humiliation would unleash a chain reaction so powerful it would bring the entire school to its knees. From which country are you enjoying this story? Let us know in the comments. Because something will happen next in this story that you would have never imagined. A revenge so clever, so devastating, it would make history. The quiet boy watching from the shadows? He wasn't just a witness. He was a weapon. And when he finally spoke, the real game would begin. Subscribe now. This is where the revolution starts. The cafeteria buzzed with the usual chaos of lunch hour. Shouts from the basketball team, the scrape of chairs, the smell of overcooked pizza. But at the far corner table, the air was different. Heavy. Silent. Lena Carter sat alone, her shoulders hunched, her fingers gripping the edge of her tray like it was the only solid thing left in the world. She hadn't touched her food. She hadn't even looked up. Not since Jake Donovan slid into the seat across from her, his smile sharp enough to cut glass. "You gonna eat that?" he asked, nodding at her untouched sandwich. His voice was light, almost friendly. But Lena knew better. She shook her head, pushing the tray toward him without a word. Jake didn't take it. Instead, he leaned in, his elbows on the table, his grin widening. "Nah, I don't want your garbage." A pause. Then, softer, just for her. "But you know what I do want." Lena's throat tightened. She knew what was coming. She'd been through this before. Bark. The word landed like a slap. Around them, a few heads turned. A few phones lifted. The cafeteria didn't go quiet, not yet, but the circle of attention was tightening. Lena's nails dug into her palms. She could feel the heat crawling up her neck, the prickle of tears behind her eyes. But she didn't move. Jake's foot nudged hers under the table. Hard. "I said bark." A beat of silence. Then, from somewhere behind her, a laugh. Then another. Lena's lips parted. No sound came out. Jake sighed, exaggerated, like she was boring him. He turned to the growing audience, rolling his eyes. Guess she forgot how. Maybe she needs a demonstration. He cupped his hands around his mouth and let out a loud mocking. "Rough. Rough." The laughter exploded. Lena's vision blurred. She could see them now. Half the cafeteria watching, phones pointed at her, some grinning, some just curious. No one stepped in. No one ever did. And then, from the back of the room, a chair scraped. Daniel Reyes stood up. He didn't shout. Didn't storm over. He just pushed his tray aside and started walking, slow and deliberate, toward Jake's table. The laughter stuttered. The whispers started. Jake noticed. His smirk flickered, just for a second, before he leaned back, arms crossed. Oh, this should be good. The debate nerds got something to say. Daniel didn't answer right away. He stopped a few feet from the table, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm. Quiet. "Why her?" Jake blinked. "What?" "Out of everyone here," Daniel said. "Why pick the girl who won't fight back?" A hush fell over the cafeteria. Real silence this time. Jake's face darkened. He shoved his chair back, standing up to his full height, towering over Daniel. "You got a problem, Reyes?" Daniel didn't flinch. "Yeah, I do." For a second, no one moved. Then, the bell rang. The moment shattered. The crowd dispersed, muttering, shooting glances back at them. Jake shoved past Daniel, shoulder-checking him hard. But Daniel didn't react. He just watched Jake go, then turned to Lena. She was still frozen in her seat, her face wet, her breath coming too fast. Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The message was clear. This wasn't over. The final bell rang, but Lena didn't move. She sat frozen at the cafeteria table long after the room had emptied, staring at the cold remains of her uneaten lunch. Her fingers traced the scratches in the plastic tabletop. Names carved by generations of students who'd sat here before her. None of them had ever felt this small. Across the room, a janitor pushed a mop across the floor, the squeak of wet rubber the only sound in the cavernous space. Lena watched the water swirl around the legs of upturned chairs, carrying bits of food and crumpled napkins. It reminded her of the way her mother's hands moved when she washed dishes at the diner. Quick, efficient circles that erased all traces of the meal before. "Hey!" The voice startled her. Daniel stood by the table, his backpack slung over one shoulder. Up close, she noticed things she'd never seen before. The faint scar above his left eyebrow, the way his right sleeve was slightly frayed at the cuff. "You okay?" he asked. Lena wiped her face with her sleeve. The fabric came away damp. "Why did you do that?" Daniel shifted his weight. "Do what?" "You know what." Her voice cracked. "Now it'll just be worse tomorrow." For the first time, Daniel's calm expression faltered. He pulled out the chair across from her, Jake's chair, but didn't sit. Just rested his hands on the back. "It was already going to be worse tomorrow," he said quietly. "That's how guys like Jake work." A drop of water fell from the mop bucket across the room. Plink. Lena stood abruptly, her chair scraping loud against the tile. "I have to go." "Wait." Daniel reached into his backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "If you want. There's a meeting tomorrow. After school." She didn't take it. "What kind of meeting?" "Debate team tryouts." Lena almost laughed. The sound came out strangled. "You're joking." Daniel didn't smile. "I saw your English paper on the civil rights movement. You can argue a position." He pushed the paper toward her. "Arguing is just fighting with words." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere, a faucet dripped. Lena stared at the flyer in Daniel's hand. Crisp white paper with neat black text. Nothing like the crumpled worksheets in her own backpack. "I can't," she whispered. Daniel didn't move. "Why not?" The truth sat heavy in her throat. Because Jake would find out. Because she'd have to stay after school when her mom needed her to watch her little brother. Because kids like her didn't join clubs. They went straight home and tried to be invisible. But what came out was, "I don't have the right clothes." Daniel looked down at his own outfit. Faded jeans, a t-shirt with the logo peeling off. When he met her eyes again, there was something new in his expression. Not pity. Something sharper. "Neither do I," he said. The janitor turned off the lights in the far corner of the cafeteria, plunging that section into shadow. The darkness crept toward them slowly, like high tide. Lena reached out and took the flyer. The flyer burned in Lena's pocket all the way home. She walked the 12 blocks from school with her head down, stepping over cracks in the sidewalk out of habit. The late September air carried the smell of fried food from the diner her mother worked at, mingling with the exhaust from the buses that never stopped for kids like her. Her little brother, Micah, was already waiting outside their apartment building when she arrived, kicking a deflated basketball against the brick wall. His backpack slumped at his feet like a tired dog. "You're late," he said without looking up. The ball thumped weakly against the wall. Lena fished the keys from her pocket. Got held up. Micah finally glanced at her, his sharp eyes missing nothing. "Your face is all red." "Allergies." She shoved the door open, the hinges screaming. The apartment smelled like the industrial cleaner her mother used at work. Lemony and artificial. Lena dumped her backpack by the couch, the flyer crinkling ominously in her pocket. Micah followed her in, tossing his ball onto the pile of laundry in the corner. Mom left a note. "She's working a double." Lena didn't need to check the fridge to know what that meant. Leftovers again. She pulled out 2 plates while Micah flopped onto the couch, the springs groaning under his weight. The TV flickered to life with the buzz of static. As she reheated last night's spaghetti, Lena's fingers brushed the flyer again. She could still hear Daniel's voice. "Arguing is just fighting with words." The microwave beeped. The next morning, the school felt different. Lena noticed the glances first. Quick, darting looks from kids who'd never noticed her before. A sophomore girl with blue streaks in her hair actually held the door open for her. Two juniors whispering by the lockers went silent when she passed. She was almost to her first class when a hand grabbed her elbow. "Did you really bark?" Lena whirled to find Madison Cole leaning against the lockers, her perfectly glossed lips curved in a smirk. The queen bee's entourage hovered behind her like a flock of brightly colored birds. Lena's throat closed. The hallway suddenly felt airless. Before she could answer, a voice cut in. "Did you really get lip filler at 16? Or is that just bad lighting?" Daniel materialized beside Lena, his expression mild as milk. Madison's face flushed an impressive shade of scarlet. "You're such a freak, Reyes," she snapped, but her voice lacked its usual venom. Daniel smiled. "And yet here you are talking to me." He nudged Lena forward. "We'll be late." As they walked away, Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. "You didn't have to do that." "Sure I did." Daniel adjusted his glasses. "Rule number 1 of high school. Predators go for the weak. Appear strong." Lena frowned. "That's not a rule. It's the only rule." The debate team meeting was held in room 217, a cramped space that smelled like old books and dry erase markers. The blinds were half closed, cutting the afternoon sun into golden stripes across the scuffed linoleum. Lena hesitated at the door. Through the window, she could see Daniel sitting at the teacher's desk, shuffling papers while a dozen students chattered. None of them looked like the kids who ate lunch with Jake Donovan. She was about to turn away when the door swung open. Coming in, or just casing the joint, a girl with cropped black hair and a nose ring stood in the doorway, her eyebrows raised. Behind her, the room had gone quiet. Lena's fingers found the flyer in her pocket. Lena." Daniel's voice carried across the room. He waved her over, ignoring the whispers that followed. "Glad you made it." As she crossed the threshold, Lena noticed the posters lining the walls, not the usual motivational crap, but newspaper clippings of protests, yellowed photographs of civil rights marches, a blown-up quote from James Baldwin. "We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist." The girl with the nose ring plopped into the seat beside her. "I'm Priya. You're the girl Jake made bark, right?" Lena stiffened. Priya smirked. "Relax. We've all been there." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing a faint scar along her forearm. "8th grade. Jake and his boys held me down and burned me with a lighter to see if I'd scream." Lena's stomach twisted. "Why?" "Because I'm gay." "Because they could." Priya's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Because this school doesn't stop them." Daniel clapped his hands, silencing the room. "All right, vultures. Today's topic, resolved. The American justice system fails its most vulnerable citizens." Lena's arguing pro. Every head swiveled toward her. Lena's mouth went dry. "I what?" Daniel tossed her a legal pad. "You wrote that paper on racial disparities in sentencing. Use it." The room waited. Lena stared at the blank page, her pulse roaring in her ears. Then she thought of Jake's smirk, the laughter in the cafeteria, the way no one had stepped in. Her pen hit the paper. 2 hours later, Lena emerged into the golden haze of sunset. Her head throbbed from arguing, her throat raw from speaking more in one afternoon than she had in months. Daniel fell into step beside her. "You're good." She snorted. "I lost." "Doesn't matter." He handed her a bottle of water from his bag. "You fought. That's what counts." They walked in silence past the empty football field. The sprinklers hissed to life, casting rainbows in the fading light. "Why does Jake hate everyone so much?" Lena asked suddenly. Daniel took a long drink before answering. "His dad's some hotshot lawyer. Got him out of juvie last year after he put a kid in the hospital." He wiped his mouth. "Some people get off on power when they know there's no consequences." Lena watched the water droplets glitter in the air. "And the teachers? No better than to mess with the Donovans." Daniel's voice went flat. "Except Mr. Kersey. He tried." Something in his tone made Lena stop walking. "What happened?" Daniel's jaw tightened. Ask Priya about her scar again. Ask why the debate team meets in the smallest room in the building. Ask why no one talks about what happened to the last kid who reported Jake. The sprinklers shut off abruptly, leaving the field eerily silent. Lena realized she was holding her breath. Daniel adjusted his backpack straps. Meet me here tomorrow. Same time. As he walked away, Lena noticed for the first time the slight limp in his right leg, the way he favored one side, like an old injury that never quite healed. The streetlights flickered on as she turned toward home, casting long shadows across the empty parking lot. Somewhere in the distance, a car backfired, the sound like a gunshot in the twilight. The apartment was dark when Lena got home. She fumbled for the light switch, her fingers brushing against the peeling wallpaper as the single bulb in the kitchen flickered to life. A note sat on the counter, her mother's rushed handwriting barely legible. Asterisk, grab pizza money from the jar. Be home by 11. Love you. Asterisk. The jar was nearly empty. Lena counted out $7 in crumpled bills and loose change. Enough for a small cheese pizza if she skipped the soda. Micah would complain, but he'd eat it. He always did. Her brother's door was closed when she knocked. No answer. She pressed her ear against the wood, the faint scratch of pencil on paper. Micah. Nothing. She turned the knob. The room was a disaster, as usual. Clothes piled in the corner, a half-built Lego fortress on the floor, and Micah hunched over his sketchbook at the desk they'd salvaged from a neighbor's trash last summer. He didn't look up when she entered. Mom left money for pizza, Lena said. Micah's pencil kept moving. Not hungry. She stepped closer, peering over his shoulder. The sketchbook was filled with monsters. Not the cartoonish kind from kids' movies, but twisted, jagged things with too many teeth and hollow eyes. One looked eerily familiar. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a cruel smirk. Lena's stomach dropped. Is that Jake? Micah slammed the book shut. No. The lie hung between them, thick and suffocating. Lena reached for the sketchbook, but Micah yanked it away, clutching it to his chest like a shield. Did he do something to you? Her voice came out sharper than she meant it to. Micah's eyes flicked to the door, then back to her. I said no. A car honked outside. The pipes in the walls groaned as someone upstairs turned on their shower. Lena exhaled slowly, forcing her hands to unclench. I'll order the pizza, she said. The next morning, the school buzzed with a strange energy. Whispers followed Lena through the halls, snippets of conversation cutting off as she passed. Priya caught her arm before first period, her dark eyes serious. Did you hear? Lena shook her head. Jake's dad was here last night. Closed door meeting with Principal Hendricks. Priya's grip tightened. They say he threatened to pull his donations if Jake gets in trouble again. Lena's mouth went dry. For what? For you. Priya lowered her voice. After what went down in the cafeteria, Jake's pissed. And when Jake's pissed, the warning bell cut her off. Priya squeezed Lena's arm once before disappearing into the crowd. Lena stood frozen in the hallway, students brushing past her like she was just another locker. The walls seemed to press in, the fluorescent lights humming louder, brighter, until she had to shut her eyes against the glare. A hand touched her shoulder. She flinched, whirling to face Daniel. His expression was unreadable behind his glasses, but his voice was low and steady. You okay? Lena swallowed. Did you know? About Jake's dad? Daniel's jaw tightened. Yeah. And you didn't tell me? I'm telling you now. He steered her into an empty alcove by the water fountain. Listen, there's something you need to see. From his backpack, he pulled a folded newspaper clipping. The headline screamed, Asterisk, student suspended after alleged assault. Family claims retaliation. Asterisk. The photo showed a younger Daniel, his face bruised, his arm in a sling. Standing beside him was a man Lena recognized. Mr. Kersey, the missing teacher. Lena's hand shook. What happened? Daniel refolded the clipping carefully. Jake happened. And when I reported it, they suspended me for provoking him. His voice dropped to a whisper. Mr. Kersey tried to fight it. Next week, he was gone. The second bell rang. The halls emptied around them. Daniel pressed the clipping into her hand. Meet me after school. Room 217. Room 217 smelled like dust and desperation. The debate team huddled in a loose circle, their usual banter replaced by tense silence. Priya chewed her thumbnail raw. A lanky boy named Marcus tapped out a frantic rhythm on his knees. Daniel locked the door. Show them, he said to Lena. She unfolded the clipping. The team leaned in as one, their breaths catching as they took in the photo. Priya was the first to speak. So what's the plan? Daniel adjusted his glasses. We fight back. The right way. Marcus snorted. Meaning we use what we're good at. Daniel pulled a stack of flyers from his bag, neatly printed, with the debate team logo at the top. Asterisk, know your rights. A student workshop on handling harassment. Asterisk. Priya grabbed one, scanning it quickly. You think Hendrix will let us? No. Daniel's smile was razor thin. Which is why we're not asking. The room erupted in whispers. Lena stared at the flyer in her hands, the words blurring together. Her pulse roared in her ears. This wasn't just about Jake anymore. This was about all of them. That night, Lena dreamt of monsters. They crowded her bedroom, their jagged teeth glinting in the dark. One of them looked like Jake. One looked like Principal Hendrix. The biggest one had her mother's tired eyes. She woke to Micah shaking her. Lena. His voice was small, scared. There's someone outside. She sat up, her heart hammering. A shadow moved past their window. Hulking, familiar. The doorknob rattled. The doorknob stopped rattling. Lena held her breath, her fingers digging into Micah's shoulder. Outside, the shadow lingered, a dark silhouette against the thin curtains. Then came the sound of gravel crunching under heavy footsteps, moving away from the window. Micah trembled beside her. Was it? Stay here. Lena slid out of bed, her bare feet silent on the cold linoleum. She crept to the window, peeling back the curtain just enough to see. The alley below was empty except for a stray cat licking its paws near the dumpster. But something glinted on the fire escape, a small, rectangular object. Lena unlocked the window and slid it open, the night air biting her skin. The metal grill of the fire escape creaked under her weight as she reached for the object. A phone. Not just any phone, a burner, the kind sold in convenience stores with prepaid minutes. The screen lit up when she touched it, revealing a single text message. Asterisk, check your brother's drawings. Page 47. Asterisk. No sender ID. No timestamp. Lena's blood turned to ice. Micah's sketchbook lay open on his bed, the pages fluttering under Lena's shaking hands. Who gave you this? Micah demanded, hovering behind her. Those are private. Lena ignored him, flipping to page 47. The drawing showed their school hallway, rendered in startling detail. But instead of students, the lockers were marked with strange symbols. Crude eyes, jagged arrows, what looked like dates. And at the center of it all, looming over everything, was a figure with Principal Hendrix's face, and claws for hands. Lena's pulse pounded in her ears. Micah, what is this? Her brother chewed his lip. Just stuff I see. What do you mean, stuff you see? Micah snatched the sketchbook back, hugging it to his chest. His voice dropped to a whisper. The marks. On the lockers. Jake and his friends put them there. Lena went very still. What kind of marks? Like tags, but secret. Micah's fingers traced the edge of his drawing. They pick someone new every month. The arrows show where they'll corner them. The eyes mean the teachers won't look. A cold realization slithered down Lena's spine. And the dates. Micah's eyes flicked to his bedroom door, then back to her. When it happens. The burner phone buzzed again as Lena crept back to her room. Asterisk, now you see the pattern. Meet me tomorrow. 3 a.m. Behind the school. Asterisk. Lena typed back, her thumbs clumsy with adrenaline. Asterisk. Who is this? Asterisk. The reply came instantly. Asterisk. Someone who remembers what happened to Daniel. Asterisk. Room 217 smelled like stale coffee and nervous sweat. The debate team had transformed overnight. Gone were the theoretical arguments and polite rebuttals. Now, maps of the school covered the walls, marked with red pins at every location from Micah's drawings. Priya cross-referenced them with a stolen janitorial schedule. Marcus compiled a list of every teacher who'd transferred suddenly in the past 3 years. Daniel stood at the center of it all, his usual calm replaced by a quiet intensity. "It's not just Jake," he said as Lena entered. "It's a system." Priya held up a grainy photocopy. "Look what I found in the archives. Hendricks used to teach at Jake's dad's alma mater. Guess who got him this job?" Lena's hands shook as she took the paper. The date in the corner, 15 years ago, was circled repeatedly in angry red ink. Marcus tapped a pin on the map. They always strike near blind spots. The alcove by the gym, the back stairwell, places without cameras. "And the marks," Lena said quietly. Everyone turned to her. Micah's been drawing them for months. They're signals. Jake's crew uses them to coordinate. The room fell silent. Daniel removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. "We take this public. All of it." Priya shook her head. "Hendricks will shut us down." "Not if we're not the ones talking." Daniel's gaze locked onto Lena. "Your brother's sketches. They're proof." Lena's stomach twisted. "I can't drag Micah into this." "You already have." Daniel held up the burner phone. "Whoever left this knows it too." 2:47 a.m. Lena checked the clock for the 10th time, the numbers glowing ominously in the dark. Micah's soft snores drifted through the thin wall between their rooms. The burner phone sat heavy under her pillow. She should stay put. Should wait for morning. But the sketchbook's pages burned behind her eyelids. The symbols, the dates, the way Micah had drawn Principal Hendricks as something not quite human. Lena slipped out of bed and dressed in silence. The school at night was a different beast. Moonlight painted the brick walls silver, the windows reflecting nothing but emptiness. Lena's breath fogged in the air as she rounded the building, her sneakers crunching on frost-stiffened grass. A figure leaned against the back wall, hood drawn up against the cold. Lena froze. The figure turned. Recognition hit like a punch to the gut. Mr. Kersey. The missing teacher looked years older than in the newspaper photo. Deep lines around his mouth, his hair more gray than brown. But his eyes were the same, sharp, exhausted, burning with quiet fury. "You shouldn't have come alone," he said. Lena's voice failed her. Mr. Kersey reached into his coat and pulled out a file folder, thick with documents. "They'll come for your brother next, unless we stop them." The folder contained incident reports, medical records, a photograph of Daniel's injuries that never made it to the papers, and at the very bottom, a single sheet of paper with a list of names. Lena's hands trembled as she read the first one. Micah Carter. The list of names trembled in Lena's hands. Moonlight bled through the cracks in the file folder, illuminating row after row of students. Some she recognized, others she didn't. Next to each name was a date, a location, and a single word in red ink, witnessed. Her finger stopped under Micah's name. The date beside it was next Thursday. The location, the boys' locker room. Lena's throat tightened. How did you get this? Mr. Kersey's breath clouded in the cold air. His coat sleeves were frayed at the cuffs, the same way Daniel's were. After they forced me out, I started tracking them. Every victim, every pattern. He tapped the list. Your brother's not the first they've marked, just the next. A car passed on the distant road, headlights slicing through the trees. Lena shoved the folder back at him. We have to go to the police. And say what? Mr. Kersey's laugh was hollow. That a group of privileged kids run a bullying ring with the principal's blessing? With Jake's father donating half the police department's equipment. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. They tried that in Ridgeview High. The girl who reported it transferred after her house got egged every night for a month. Her parents lost their jobs. The wind picked up, rattling the chain-link fence behind them. Lena wrapped her arms around herself. Then what do we do? Mr. Kersey reached into his coat again. This time, he produced a small black device, some kind of recorder. We give them nowhere to hide. The recording played on a loop in Lena's mind all through first period. Asterisk. Just make him cry, that's all. Little freak deserves it for staring at me in the cafeteria. Asterisk. Jake's voice. Clear as day. Asterisk and Hendrix. Asterisk an unfamiliar voice. Asterisk, he'll look the other way like always. Just don't leave marks where people can see. Asterisk. A laugh. Then the crunch of footsteps walking away. Lena's pencil snapped in half. Across the room, Jake slouched in his seat, doodling in a notebook while the teacher droned on about the French Revolution. His phone buzzed constantly on his desk. Texts from his friends, probably. Planning. Coordinating. Marking their next target. Lena's own phone vibrated in her pocket. A text from Daniel. Asterisk. Kersey showed you the list? Asterisk. She typed back with shaking fingers. Asterisk. How long have you known? Asterisk. The reply took a full minute. Asterisk since it happened to me. Asterisk. Room 217 had become a war room. Priya had hacked into the school's security system. Or at least, that's what she claimed as she wired a series of tiny cameras to the map. Blind spots covered, she muttered, sticking a pin through the boys' locker room. For all the good it'll do. Marcus was elbow deep in old yearbooks, comparing them to Mr. Kersey's list. This goes back years, he said, pushing his glasses up his nose. Same pattern. Same silence. Daniel stood by the window, staring out at the football field where Jake currently held court with his teammates. His reflection in the glass looked haunted. Lena approached him slowly. You never told me how bad it was. Daniel didn't turn around. Would you have believed me? The question hung between them. Outside, Jake threw his head back laughing at something, his Letterman jacket gleaming under the afternoon sun. Priya slammed her laptop shut. We have 6 days until Micah's date. What's the plan? Daniel finally turned. His eyes were dark, determined. We set a trap. The trap required 3 things. First, access to the PA system, which Marcus obtained by volunteering for tech crew and pocketing the key to the broadcast room. Second, indisputable evidence, which Mr. Kersey's hidden cameras would provide if placed correctly. Third, and most dangerous, bait. I'll do it, Lena said immediately. Daniel shook his head. Too obvious. It has to be someone they'd never suspect. All eyes turned to Marcus. The lanky boy paled. Oh hell no. Priya patted his shoulder. You're perfect. Nerdy, non-threatening, and most importantly, not on the list, Daniel finished. They won't see it coming. Marcus groaned, rubbing his face. What exactly am I supposed to do? Get caught alone in a blind spot, Daniel said. Act scared. When they move in, we'll have them. Lena's stomach churned. And if the cameras fail? Daniel met her gaze. They won't. That night, Lena dreamt of locker rooms and laughter. She woke gasping, her sheets damp with sweat. The clock read 3:17 a.m. Something was wrong. She crept to Micah's room, pushing the door open slowly. His bed was empty, the window wide open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the faint scent of cigarette smoke from the alley below. On his pillow lay a single note. Asterisk, gone to make them pay. Don't follow. Asterisk. The note crumpled in Lena's fist as she bolted down the fire escape, the metal grating biting into her bare feet. The alley reeked of garbage and wet pavement, the only light coming from a flickering street lamp at the far end. Micah. Her whisper cut through the darkness like a knife. No answer. A shadow moved near the dumpster. Too tall to be her brother. Lena froze as the figure stepped into the dim light. Priya. Her nose ring glinted as she held up a hand. He went toward the school. Lena's pulse pounded in her ears. How do you? Because I followed him last week. Priya's expression was grim. Your brother's been sneaking out for months. Planting things. Gathering evidence. She held out a flashlight. Daniel's already there. Come on. The school loomed like a tomb in the moonlight. A side door hung slightly ajar, the lock picked clean. Lena's breath came in short gasps as they crept through the darkened halls, their flashlight beams slicing through the black. Strange symbols marked the lockers here, not just the crude eyes and arrows from Micah's drawings, but new ones. Numbers, names, dates going back years. Priya ran a finger over one. It's a ledger. Every kid they've ever targeted. Lena's stomach turned as the beam illuminated Daniel Reyes. Broken arm, 10/14 scratched beneath a crude knife symbol. Further down, Priya Mehta. Burn, March 15th. Then, fresh and deep. Micah Carter, Thursday, Locker RM. A sound echoed from deeper in the building. Metal on concrete. Lena took off running. The boiler room door stood slightly open, yellow light spilling into the hall. Lena approached slowly, her heart hammering. Through the gap, she could see Micah standing on a chair, fiddling with something on a pipe. And behind him, creeping from the shadows, Jake. Lena breathed. She burst through the door just as Jake lunged. Micah whirled, losing his balance. The chair toppled as Jake grabbed him by the collar. Thought you'd set us up, you little rat? Jake snarled. Lena launched herself at him, nails raking down his arm. Jake howled, dropping Micah. Something clattered to the floor. Micah's phone, screen lit, recording. Jake saw it. His face twisted. You're dead. The boiler room door slammed open. Daniel stood framed in the doorway, chest heaving. Behind him, Mr. Kersey and a dozen students Lena recognized from the list. Jake laughed. What's this? A pity party. Daniel stepped aside. Principal Hendricks stood there, face ashen. And beside him, holding a camera phone live streaming to the school's official page, Jake's father. The video went viral by morning. Jake's confession played on every local news station. The list of names trended statewide. Principal Hendricks resigned by lunchtime. But it was the marks that sealed it, the ledger of pain etched into the school itself, now being documented by reporters and police alike. 1 month later, Lena stood before room 217's newly installed plaque, the Kersey Debate Hall. Micah's sketches lined the walls now, framed alongside newspaper clippings about the investigation. Daniel adjusted his tie beside her. Newly elected student body president. You coming? He held out a hand. Lena took it. Somewhere a bell rang. Epilogue. The girl who barked became the girl who spoke. The boy who burned became the boy who rebuilt. And the school that looked away, it learned to see.